Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us John DiJulius, who is the author of The Relationship Economy. Welcome to the program, John.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be a part of it.
Yeah, you know, I love the just even the title, because the relationships, people hear about that a lot, but economy, that brings to mind kind of a connotation of it's more than just a transaction like relationship marketing, which is a great thing, but an economy is like a whole ecosystem. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to write this book.
Been an entrepreneur, have three businesses for almost 30 years, built three businesses. And, first one 27 years ago, today is a collection of salons and spas in Northeast Ohio. And then for about 22 years have been a speaker and consultant on customer experience and work with companies like the Ritz-Carlton and Lexus and Chick-fil-A and all those great companies. And then I also have a nonprofit, Believe in Dreams. So this is my fifth book, and I just have seen, working with and studying world-class customer service companies, just the evolution it's ironic that the disruptor today is good old-fashioned relationships, right? It's kind of like Back to the Future. Today's illiterate are those who have an inability to make a meaningful connection with others. And so, bringing that, making, understanding, business leaders understanding that the lack of social skills that people have in today's world is their problem to solve.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because I've said for a few years now, if you really want to stand out in your marketing, so many people think, let's do whatever, list a whole myriad of bullet points of bots to text to whatever you want to think about. But if you think about going out to your mailbox, it's much less cluttered these days. And so I think that direct mail could be making a comeback, right? Because of all the clutter out there.
Absolutely. I mean, technology has brought us so many benefits and conveniences, but it's come at a significant cost. That cost is human interactions, and which is what, builds customer loyalty, employee satisfaction, and overall happiness. And listen, technology is not the enemy. It's not the devil. I love technology. Using it to eliminate the human experience is.
Yeah, and do you know what a fallacy I feel in the world of business and marketing is? Social selling. Because my opinion is people use that as a crutch and an excuse to go, I'm using social media to sell. And all you're doing is commenting and sharing some stuff, hoping that people get the hint and go, oh, you like my thing, so can we have a conversation? I happened upon your profile, and I think you can help me. It doesn't happen like that. And technology and social media is wonderful, but it enhances relationship building. So, and I know you agree with that, but where do you see clients or people in the industry misusing technology at the expense of building real relationships?
You're totally right. And it's kind of, the same old way that people misuse, face-to-face at network gathering of just coming up and shoving 5 business cards in your pocket and, throwing up on you on, what I can do for you versus, I say stop networking and start building social capital. And social capital is different. Social capital is just making a connection with not the traditional networking, but, just growing the depths of relationships you have where the relationship is its own reward. And somewhere down the road, things always come back to benefit you. But, people have great BS detectors today, and that just the ingenuineness is such a turnoff. And, you're right. I mean, LinkedIn has just turned into, just an explosion of sales pitches.
Yep. So when you work with clients or meet with them, what are you telling them to do to avoid that? Because we have to know what to avoid, and then what are some good actionable tips to start building that relationship? Because it's not something that comes naturally to people.
No, you're absolutely right. And so it's key that businesses offer relationship building techniques as part of their orientation and training, because we're living in the social, in the touchscreen age, and that's not generational specific. There's grandparents, using social medias, and every generation's been affected. Obviously, millennials and Gen Z are the heaviest, and they're relationshiply disadvantaged at no fault of their own. Because it's our responsibility as business leaders, because we can't skip this generation, the best way to build relationship building techniques, we found there's 5 key techniques, and it is to some of us older guys, this may sound common sense, but everyone's slipping at it. We're gravitating towards, texting and chatting and those convenience, but certainly this is not common sense to the younger generation. So the 5 keys to the art of building relationships is, being authentic, just putting the desire of others in front of you, and finding out what they need. Number 2 is having insatiable curiosity. If you don't, just finding out about other people. The problem, we're all genetically coded to be preoccupied with ourselves. It's my flight that was delayed. It's my client that's threatening to break his contract. It's my son that got in trouble. But we can't build a relationship if we're talking about ourselves. So one of our best techniques that all our clients adopt is whenever you're dealing with someone else, you focus on their Ford, as in F-O-R-D, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. When you focus on the other person's Ford, you're not only building a relationship, you own the relationships, because to each of us, our own Ford is our hot button. The third one is having incredible empathy and really putting yourself in their shoes and not offering your expertise or solutions until you truly understand where they're coming from and what their pain points. The fourth skill to building relationships is a genuine love for people. And of the 5, I honestly believe all 4 can be taught. 4 of the 5 can be taught. This one can't be. You have to find this in people, a genuine love for others. And then the 5th one is being a great listener. And a lot of us think, I think most of us think we're a better listener than we are. And doing the research for this, it was really painful because I just realized how poor of a listener I was. And when you're in meetings with clients or even employees or whatever, and it some great information is if you ask a question and you don't ask 2 to 3 follow-up questions, odds are that you weren't listening. Right, so it's good to have like a 4-to-1 ratio of questions asked versus question answered. But I have a lot of really good lists of nevers and always during conversations that when I went and researched, I realized, man, I am guilty of not doing them or doing them too much.
And I'm sure you would agree with this. There's a big difference in listening and hearing, and I'm sure you could apply one to the other. But the point is, too many people, nod, maybe look at you in the eye, and seem like they're hearing or listening, but they're just waiting for a break in the conversation to put their 2 cents back in. They're not really assimilating. So that's a big difference. That active listening, right?
Mike, there's a study that the scientists studied the human brain. And it said they found that it took the human brain a minimum of 0.6 seconds to formulate a response to something said to it. Then they studied hundreds, thousands of conversations and found the average gap between people talking was 0.2 seconds. Wow. 1/3 the time our brain will allow us. But you're right. We are too often have our answer sentences ago. We're just waiting for the other person to come up for breath.
Yep. And that is so wrong, because that's not the relationship economy. that is being pushy. And it's really interesting how, when you were mentioning Ford, it kind of reminded me of, we need to, in essence, advertise, air quotes, on everyone's favorite radio station, WIIFM. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah.
I have. So, and I think a lot of people, oh yeah, I've heard that gimmick, what's in it for me? But if we think about when we're talking to, interacting with other people, what is in it for them, from their perspective? What's in it for them to take your call, to meet with you, to whatever? And if you can think about that and put their best interest first, maybe actually do book that quick phone call. And then you better darn well have that focus of that phone call be on them, and maybe have a little nugget that you could share with them that's just a freebie, helpful thing, even before even hinting at what you might be able to do together. So I think you bring up a whole lot. I think there's so much to that word economy. It's not just a one-way street, and it's the economy. It's the back and forth.
And it applies to every walk of life. It applies to the stranger that you meet in an elevator, and it applies to coming home. I have a couple of favorite quotes. That everyone we come in contact with has an invisible sign above their head that says "Make me feel important." And the greatest gift that you can give anyone is the gift of your attention. And sometimes I can't give that, or I'm not ready to give that. And even to the point where I'll pull in the driveway, pull in the garage, and I have to unwind from, the day before I can go in and give that gift to my family. So, I'll sit in the garage for an extra 10 minutes with the car off before I can right. Go inside and give that gift of attention, because I don't want to cheat anyone.
Yep. Normally, I'm doing the sit in the garage for a minute when I hear one of my favorite 80s on 8 songs, and I can't leave it till it finishes. But I know what you mean. So, hey, do you?
I can tell we're the same age.
I know.
Exactly that.
Yep. Do you feel like there's a certain segment demographic that embraces the relationship economy more than others? Meaning, like with all the digital and technical, is the millennials more open or not to relationships? Who has to work harder, or does everyone? Right? It doesn't come naturally, but do you find that a certain demographic has to work harder than others?
Yeah, so it's obviously more new. The millennials and Gen Z are relationshiply disadvantaged, but we're all suffering. We are all guilty. I am guilty of all it's called mental stimulation addiction, and I guarantee you've done this, and a lot of your listeners have done this. So I'll be sitting in a doctor's office waiting to be called, and I'll pull out my phone, or my phone will already be out. And I'll look at my 6 or 7 things, email, text, social media, ESPN, and whatever, and then I'll put it down. And literally, without thinking, 15 seconds later, I check them again. Like, what could have changed in 15 seconds? Yep. And it is horrible. And they're saying that, we are one of the biggest crises we're headed for is a creativity and an innovation crisis, because our brain is atrophying, because we are using the devices to stimulate it. And we don't daydream anymore. We don't sit and just, we all know that you get your best ideas in the shower, right? As long as the phone's, water, not waterproof yet. But, we don't take enough showers. We don't take enough massages. We don't, and so we have to put ourselves, yoga and meditation's good for people that could do it. But I've even started, when I do my morning, runs, I'm always listening to, a great, podcast or something. But I've even started to try to not listen to anything, which is really hard at first. But I'll tell you what, when I get home, I have to run through the house and find something to write down, because I have so many ideas that came to my head because I was bored, and because I allowed my brain to rest and therefore, open. But to your original question, the shock in all this, I have found, so my between my 3 companies, I have 150 employees, and probably 110, if not more, are millennials, and they are phenomenal. The currency for millennials is purpose, and that's so key for everyone to know and hear. And when you turn them on to this, I believe they are better than our generation right, who grew up in what genuinely was the relationship economy because we had no other choice but have face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
But the millennials are great at it. It's like, someone who's starving for it and didn't know it. And so many people discount the millennial generation. And it's funny, our generation's always criticizing the millennials, but we're the generation that raised them.
It is interesting because I know that you've got the cliches of, well, all millennials do this or that or the other. And one of the things that come to my mind is, well, they're just never in the office and they're always out, trying to have a good time and this and that. Well, maybe they're wired into that relationship connection. And if you could just guide them to go, you know what, why don't you do this kind of glad-handing relationship, social reach out to our customers, our strategic alliances, and then have at it. Go out there and play pool, go bowling, play golf with these people. Now you're kind of like out and about, freedom, and it hits both sides of the equation because I know that some boomers, Gen Xers, kind of complain that, well, the Gen X or the millennials, well, you just got to know where to play to their strengths. And we can get into a long discussion on, how to best whatever. But I think you're exactly right. Some people, some demographics are more easily suited to that. And so here's a question. If someone is listening to this going, you know what, I get it, relationships and all of that, and I tend myself maybe to be one that has to work a little bit harder. What's a tip or two that you can think of that you recommend to start kind of jump-starting yourself into more relationship focused than, clicking like, share, and comment on social media and thinking you're furthering relationships?
I think it's finding ways to enhance people. That you find out that your client's theme this year is sales, customer service, whatever the theme is, leadership, and you send them the best book out there or 3 links to great articles on that topic. I mean, we should know our clients' top 3 goals for 2020. And we should know that, and we should become a resource broker and just find ways. I like to call it the are you in your client's bomb shelter? And so the bomb shelter is a metaphoric thing that your CEO client, and the world's going to end tomorrow, and he has 2 bomb shelters, one personal that he's going to bring his family in, and then one professional that he can only fit 3 vendor partners in it. Do you have a secure space in that?
Yeah.
Or is he okay with losing you because he could find someone that's doing what you're doing, maybe for cheaper? And so when you think of it that way, what do you have to do to be in your client's bomb shelter? And that's love what you do and make it obvious. Do people tell that, man, that Mike loves interviewing and thought leaders? Like, you can tell. Your client should never meet anyone smarter at what you do than you, and you got to make that obvious. You got to be able to go ugly early, and that means be transparent. If it's bad news, let them know right away. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't hide it. Be a resource broker. My example to that is I have a client in Columbus that said, he said, I hope I die before my lawyer dies. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what do you mean you hope you die? He goes, my lawyer is so valuable to me. I don't make a decision without consulting with him first. He goes, in fact, this is the example he gave me. He goes, in fact, if I was thinking about changing the color paint of my corporate office walls, I wouldn't do it without asking him first. Wow. And he says, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know jack about, what color paint, anything should be, but I know he knows someone that does.
Yeah.
And man, when he said that, I was like, that's who I want to be to my clients, right?
Well, guess what? That is the Henry Ford was famous for that concept, right?
No. What was that?
As the story goes, and I'm sure that, I'm sure it's been embellished over the years, but apparently people back in the day were all upset about him, like, you're too powerful, and they take him to court, and pretty much the attorney was like, okay, Mr. Educated, successful guy, you don't even have a great education, so tell me the answer to this, and this, asking all these questions, and he's like, you know what, let me just tell you something. I don't know the answer to that, but I know one thing. I've got a button on my desk, and I can push that button, and I can have my right-hand man come in, and I will get the answer to that right now. And he goes, I don't have time for that to clutter my mind with that, but I have people. And it's kind of interesting because you were talking about the Ford, family, occupation, and then here's this Henry Ford kind of bookend. And you said something just a second ago, there's really interesting authenticity, transparency. It made me think of something that I was talking to a client once, and he just popped into this. He's like, real is rare. And being real and authentic and transparent is rare. So when we are thinking about developing those relationships, you are going to separate yourself from your competition, because if you're being real and authentic, that's rare these days, and they're not experiencing it. So when they experience it from you, now that connection is going deeper and deeper and deeper.
I love that. Real is rare. I totally agree. I like I said, it's ironic that the disruptor today is good old fashioned relationships.
Yep, and that's something that we should be able to do very, very simply. So let's wrap up with this. I think we can talk for another 6.5 more hours without catching a breath. But what's the best way that people can reach out to you, find out about your keynotes, pick up a copy of your book?
DiJuliusGroup.com. DiJuliusGroup.com. It's DiJulius. And they can email me at john@DiJuliusGroup.com.
Excellent. I'll make sure to put this website address in the show notes. And John, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful talking with you today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.